Hello everybody, it is your boy NCO7 here, and welcome back to another Iceberg video. Today, I'm going to be looking through the Fire Emblem 3 Houses Iceberg. Now, a few things I want to mention before I get into this video. First of all, spoilers. There's going to be spoilers for probably everything for every route of this game. So, if you don't want any spoilers, then don't watch the video. Or do, and yeah, but if you do, don't whine about me spoiling stuff because I gave you the warning. And second of all, the iceberg for this video is going to be a little bit different because if you've seen my earlier iceberg videos, I've actually used other people's icebergs. However, this iceberg was actually made by myself. However, it wasn't entirely made by me, and I actually got most of the points from two other icebergs from two other individuals. I'll put their names on the screen right now. So yeah, and I added a couple of my own things, so yeah, I did basically just kind of mash their icebergs into one and added some additional stuff. So yeah, this is my own iceberg, but I couldn't really made it without the help of them. And also, keep in mind that this video might be a bit on the shorter side, because like most of my other icebergs aren't that long, but this one's not really that long compared to the others, but I still want to do this, so I don't really care. But with that all being said, let's learn, hopefully, and let's take a deep dive into the Fire Emblem 3 Houses Iceberg. Edelgard and Lacithia's true hair color. This is a pretty well-known thing, but essentially Edelgard and Lacithia's white hair, well, that's not actually the true color their hair is supposed to be. You see, earlier in their lives, they were captured by the Agarthans, or those who slither in the dark, and were subject to a bunch of experimentation that pretty much ruined their lives. For Edelgard, lots of her siblings were killed, and for Lacithia, lots of things were done with her crests, giving her two of them, thus shortening her life, and also removing all the pigment from their hairs, making their hair completely white. And we do actually know that Edelgard's hair from one of the flashbacks actually is brownish, but we don't actually know Lacithia's hair color originally. Maybe it would have been purple? I mean, purple is kind of her color, especially post time skip, but who really knows? Keyhole and Sethleen. So, Seth and Flame being brother and sister is a complete and utter lie. It's very well known that they're actually not brother and sister, but instead father and daughter, as Seth is the father, whose actual name is Keyhole, or Saint Keyhole, and then Flame's actual name is Saint Sethleen. This is pretty much well known, and essentially actually existed pretty much as long as Saros has, or Lady Rhea, and even helped her during the war against the Agarthans. Yuritsa without a mask. During part 1 in White Clouds, when Yuritsa is present for like a few chapters, he's shown wearing a mask. However, in part 2, there is one instance where you can actually see Yuritsa without his mask. Crimson Flower. Now, not originally. You see, originally in Crimson Flower, you couldn't actually use Yuritsa. However, eventually in an update for the game, they actually added Yuritsa without his mask. Honestly, I don't know why he even bothered wearing a mask in the first place. Like, I don't get it. Like, he looks more hot without the mask on. I don't understand why they would do this. Marianne kills herself. So if you don't choose the Golden Deer when you start the game, or you don't recruit her before the time skip, well, Marianne kills herself. This can be shown because if you don't recruit Marianne and you go through the time skip, you never actually fight her or you have any encounter with her unless you recruit her. To which case she does get over her depression. And that, of course, is the reason why she does essentially kill herself, is that, well, her depression. This is most shown in her ace support with Byleth, as it was basically shown that every day when Marianne was praying to the goddess, she was actually wishing that the goddess would just take her life. Yeah. And that's kind of why I'm glad that the time skip Marianne is so much better. It's such a good growth. Part of the reason why she's one of the best characters. Petra is 15. Okay, this was on one of the other icebergs. I don't really know why I need to really say it, but in part 1, Petra is 15 years old, which makes her one of the youngest students at the monastery. is the same age as Serial and Lacithia. No, I'm not saying his real name, but yeah, that's a thing. McDonald's Play Place. So this is a meme, a pretty popular meme within the Fire Emblem Three Houses community. Essentially, the voice actor of Seteth, Mark Whitten, made for some reason, I don't know why he did this, some sort of voice in, like, a meme in the voice of Seteth. Basically another request that I'll just play for you right now.
I have something to ask of you. Flames got us trapped in the McDonald's Play Place. We are currently in the bubble facing the dining area. Do you see us waving at you? Please get us out. We haven't eaten our order yet.
Yeah, it's obviously not meant to be taken seriously at all, and kind of is just a joke about Seteth's somewhat crazy requests.
An offensive sight. Naturally.
Edelgard destroys Flame's house. Okay, this is the last of the meme points for now, but essentially this was another meme that was recorded by Mark Whitten in the Seteth voice of another request. I'll play it out for you right now.
I have something to ask of you. Claude invited Flame to the Academy's Minecraft server, but Edelgard keeps putting TNT inside her house and blowing it up. It's been half an hour since, and Flame hasn't stopped screaming. Please find Edelgard for me and talk her out of doing this.
E3 2018. So this was actually the first time that Fire Emblem Three Houses would actually be revealed to the general public in the E3 2018 Nintendo Direct. Before this, well, none of us really knew what the hell a Three Houses was. And judging on the pictures that are shown on the screen and, well, the video footage on YouTube, there's a lot of differences between this version and the final version of the game. And this can go from just visual changes to even different mechanics. I would go more in depth on it here, but I'm going to save some of that stuff for future spots on the Iceberg, as I feel they're worthy of that. Gatekeeper S support. So, for some reason, a lot of people want to S support the Gatekeeper in the game, who, if you don't know, is basically an NPC that stands in front of the monastery, and he basically gives you some information about what's going on in the world, in the story. And he's, strangely enough, the most popular generic NPC character that I've ever seen in my life for not even just a Fire Emblem game, but like any game in general. And a lot of people want to S support him, and there is actually some possibilities of this happening. I mean, they did add him in Fire Emblem Heroes, so it is entirely possible. Maybe they'll make a reference to it in a future game. I don't know. Infernal Difficulty. So there's an unused difficulty in the game that's called, well, Infernal, and is completely broken, as the name suggests. Seriously, some of the maps with this difficulty on have level 99 enemies with unbelievable stats. This was never added into the game, and while you can't mod it into the game, it's pretty broken, all things considered. Bernadetta and Byleth B support. So this support was actually changed within an update, as this support normally just has Byleth in Bernadetta's room, and Bernadetta basically talks about her past. And there's a certain part of it where she talks about her father and what he would do to her. And this was eventually changed slightly in an update to censor it a little bit to make it a little less dark. Even though it's still dark both ways. Manuela's anatomy model. In the infirmary in the monastery, you can actually find a model that has a scalpel sticking out of its forehead, based on the picture I have found here. Yep, I don't know why it's here, but it is. Crimson Flower was rushed. So this is something that you'll hear a lot when talking about the various routes of the game. Almost everyone will come to the conclusion that Crimson Flower was rushed, and there are quite a bit of reasoning as to why this is. Many believe that this route was made a lot more quickly, as it only has one animated cutscene in the game as opposed to the other routes, significantly less chapters than the other routes, and also reuses various maps from other routes in the game, and has what I would say is probably the weakest story. Maybe. In fact, I've even heard people say that they actually started working on Crimson Flower after the reveal at E3 2018. And, I mean, maybe. I'm not entirely sure, but to be honest, it is entirely possible that this may be the case, as it is a pretty short route, and the fact that they kind of had to add DLC in the future in the form of Eureka, maybe it is true that they did rush it.
You will regret this.
Mercedes' hair color. So going back to the E3 2018 gameplay, in this picture right here, you can actually see that Mercedes actually has a darker hair color than that of the final version of the game. And it's kind of weird. I don't really know why they decided to go lighter on it. Maybe because she's not that dark in the first place. I don't know. But I thought it was a notable enough change to add. Dorothea Tea Time quote. So this is one that I'm kind of unsure of. So whenever you get a perfect tea time, you have, of course, the option to observe them. And after pressing buttons enough, they'll eventually say something. And apparently there's some quote from Dorothea that's more sexual than the others that says, "Don't you think you feel stronger attraction to someone when you know you may die tomorrow?" Yeah. Silver Snow was written first. In a developer interview, it was actually mentioned that Silver Snow was actually the prototype route that was used to create the other routes. It was even intended to be the hardest route, as, I mean, in Crimson Flower, you keep Edelgard and Hubert, but in Silver Snow, well, you lose Edelgard and Hubert. It was intended to be much harder, but this was eventually changed in the final version of the game, though I still feel that Silver Snow is still pretty difficult. Though that might be because of me sucking, which isn't that surprising. The 11th Elite. So you may know about the 10 elites that aided Nemesis during the final battle of the game, as well as the battle that takes place during the opening cutscene of the game. But there actually was an 11th Elite that was named Maurice, who was actually an ancestor of Marianne. But the thing is, he was pretty much wiped off of the face of the earth because essentially after some time he somehow transformed into a demonic beast and then kind of just left, didn't really do much at all. And this is shown within Marianne's paralogue, and this is actually part of the reason why Marianne's so depressed, because she fears that since she bears the same crest as Maurice, she could potentially become a demonic beast herself. So yeah. Ash and Golden Deer. In the E3 2018 gameplay, once again, in this specific shot, this shows Hilda, Lawrence, and Hanuman. You can actually see Ash, who seems to be along with the Golden Deer, which is kind of weird because Ash mostly has to do more so with the blue lines than Golden Deer. I don't know why this was. To be fair, though, there are various things in this video demonstration of the game that don't seem to be right, so it is possible that they maybe just put Ash in there instead of Ignatz. I'm not sure. Though the only thing I can see for him is a portrait, as the model that's used for Ash is actually just a generic model and not actually Ash's model. So I have literally no idea. Maybe it was just done for the trailer, I don't know. Eureka can weed. There's unused data in the game that shows that Eureka can actually weed during the group activities. But the thing is, this can only be done in part 1, where he is completely inaccessible as a playable unit. But on that note, there's actually a lot of data for a version of Eureka that we can't actually play in the game, as there's a lot of unused stuff regarding him. If you want to find out more about this, I suggest going to the cutting room floor and finding this out. Felix and Annette betrayal. There's unused data in the game that suggests that during the Azure Moon route, both Felix and Annette would eventually become enemies later in the route. For some reason. I mean, I guess I can kind of see it with Felix, as he doesn't really like the boar, and given that Dimitri acts quite like a monster during the first few chapters of Azure Moon, I don't know. I don't really know why they would do this. It's kind of weird that they would even do this, though. Maybe because of the fact that since they're removing 2 party members that more than likely would have probably been your best party members, this might be the reason why they didn't do this.
Let this be a lesson.
Byleth's VA. Originally, male Byleth was going to be voiced by Chris Niosi. I hope I pronounced that right. However, not that long before the game released, he actually broke a non-disclosure agreement and pretty much said that he was playing the role of male Byleth before he was supposed to. That, as well as allegations of abuse at the time, and he was pretty much taken out of the game instead, and instead was then voiced by Zach Aguilar in a patch. I probably butchered that too. I'm sorry if I butchered those names. Not the best at reading names. Sylvain and the Scarecrow. In the Japanese version of Sylvain and Ingrid's C support, Ingrid would actually call him out on flirting with a cross-dressing guy at the Culture Festival, though this was changed to a Scarecrow in the localization of the game. Honestly, I like this change because him flirting with like a cross-dressing guy, that just seems a little bit tasteless. But instead with him flirting with a Scarecrow, I don't know, I just find that more stupid and more funny. It's funny. Rare Felix advice box question. So there's a specific advice question that Felix will give after Rodrigue dies in Azure Moon, and there's a chance you can get this in the advice box, and I'll show it here. Shh, keep quiet, uncle, is a line that's said by Flane if you have her fight Mackley in a paralogue, as she will say this to try and protect her true identity. You see, Mackley is another one of the saints that helped Saros during the battle a long time ago against the Agarthans, and for some reason you fight him. I don't know why you do, but even so, Flane still wants to keep the whole thing going that she's not Sethleen, which I don't really know why they're doing it at this point. Like, I don't really understand why they need to do that. Hilda in Felix's room. So this is weird. Essentially in Silver Snow, if recruited, Hilda can sometimes just hang out in Felix's room during one of the final chapters for absolutely no reason. There's not even a support between Hilda and Felix, at least that I know of. So I don't know why this is. They could have put her anywhere else. Why Felix's room? I have no idea, and I don't really know what else to say regarding this, so moving on.
I'll leave you breathless. Winning is what matters.
Recruiting post-time skip. There is some instances post-time skip that you can spare other characters' lives after defeating them. Specifically, one example being Lacithia during Crimson Flower in Chapter 14, as when you defeat her, you have the option to either spare her and make her an actual playable unit on your side, or kill her, which I don't know why you would do the latter, but yeah. Dubstep exists. So in the Shambhala map of the game, it actually plays a completely different song compared to the rest of the game. It actually plays the Slitherers song with some dubstep. Yeah, but this game takes place in like the 1100s, so I don't know how that exists, but I mean, to be fair, the Agarthans do have a lot more advanced knowledge on technology, as they're much further ahead with technology than the rest of the world, so yeah, I guess the Agarthans, whenever they're in their downtime, they just listen to dubstep, I guess. Unused DLC character. In the files of the DLC for the game exists an unused character in the files, being the age of 17 and having the same base stats and growths as Ferdinand, though her crest isn't necessarily known, as for some reason in multiple updates after the game they kept changing her crest, so I don't really know. Maybe it would have been one of the early versions of Constance or Happy's character. I don't know, but it's a thing in the files. They seem to have worked a bit on it, so maybe they were gonna have 5 DLC characters at one point. I don't know though. The Kama Sutra. If you don't know, this is basically a book about love and whatnot and stuff that I'm not really gonna get into. And it does exist in the game, in the Shadow Library, as a book that is called Words of Love. So yeah, this exists for some reason. 3DS Origins. Originally, there was a Fire Emblem game that was planned to start development on the 3DS, that was eventually moved on the Nintendo Switch as the 3DS was kind of becoming old news at the time, and many believe that it was Three Houses. In fact, it actually was, as they decided to put it on Switch after being put on hold for a while to develop Fire Emblem Echoes for the 3DS instead. Sothis is evil. So in the Shadow Library, again, exists a book that's written from an Agarthan's perspective describing Sothis as being evil. And, I mean, no, I don't think she's probably that evil. I mean, it's the Agarthans that got greedy since they have all that knowledge, so would I call Sothis evil? I mean, she is annoying, I'll say that much, but I don't know if I would necessarily call her evil. Hilda is secretly a terrorist. There's rumors in the game that Hilda actually isn't who she believes on, and that she actually is potentially a terrorist just waiting to destroy the monastery. All of her acts of being lazy and just letting other people do her work is all just an act, just to throw everyone off to hide her true colors. One-Winged Star. There's an unused variation of God-Shattering Star that was removed from the game because supposedly this song was so deathly to the developers making the game that it caused illness to the developers, thus removing it from the game completely. The May 17th, 2018 build. Approximately a month before E3, there is a build of the game that is said to have leaked online containing a completely different cast of characters than what we got. And these characters would never be shown again, and we have absolutely no idea what story there would have been. But we're never going to know, as they are considered lost media and don't seem to exist anymore, as the leak demo build that's online seems to have potentially been lost forever. Maddening is impossible. Many people have said before that maddening mode really isn't possible, and there is a possible reason for that, as the developers probably never thought that it was a big deal. They probably didn't care much. They knew that only masochists would go for the maddening difficulty, so maybe they just didn't care at all. But it is a big deal. Hilda and Kaspar beta support. Supposedly an early version of this support exists somewhere online, but it's said to be so dark, gory, and so depraved to the point that one of the developers actually almost died from viewing this. And they eventually had to just remove it from the game completely. Like, just completely get it off the world, but it is believed to exist somewhere online, though no one knows where. All routes are canon. It's believed that every single route happens in one specific timeline. So all the events of White Clouds and then Crimson Flower, Silver Snow, Azure Moon, and Verdant Wind, all of those actually take place in one timeline. So thus, every single route actually is canon to one specific timeline, and that the idea of these actually being multiple routes is actually complete BS, as you're just starting the game in a different piece of time, but that's probably not true. So that is the Fire Emblem Three Houses Iceberg. Jesus Christ, that that was annoying to make. Legit, recording the audio for this video was kind of annoying, and I do want to apologize on the fact that it may have sounded awkward at times. I cannot speak at all. I'm especially bad at doing it for these Iceberg videos, but hopefully you still learned something, because that's kind of the point of these videos. And yeah, I don't really have that much to say this time around. This is the last Three Houses video that I'm doing for a bit. I do have another video planned regarding Three Houses, but I'm not going to say what that is, so you'll find that out in the future. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it. And this is also the last Iceberg I'm making for 2021. And I'm actually going to just spoil it right here and now. The next Iceberg, and the first Iceberg I'm going to be doing for 2022, is actually going to be a remake of my very first Iceberg video on the DDLC Iceberg. So I'm going to be doing a remake of that video as the first Iceberg for 2022. So hope you guys enjoy that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't really have much else to say. So hope hope you guys enjoyed, and hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more Three Houses content. I'll have like some end cards and whatnot in a second, but hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out, everybody.